Welcome to Team DataFam Tableau User Group meeting number 56. This TUG aims to capture all the in-person and unrecorded presentations from around the world and give them a wider audience. That's why we're all here today, and it's what we're usually here for anyway. So I don't really mind if you've presented at a big conference or a small conference or not presented at all. It doesn't matter. If you've got some content that's vaguely Tableau related, get in touch. We can find a time slot to suit you. My email is team.datafam@gmail.com. But today, it's pretty awesome because we've got a replay from DataFam Europe. So if you were at DataFam Europe, you might have seen this before. Plenty of people were not at DataFam Europe because you had to be in, London in early December. But Torre and Steve were presenting about templating your way to dashboard happiness and a big smile. I'm going to hand it over to you guys and you can take it from here.
Excellent, thank you. So welcome everybody, and thanks for coming along. As Chris just mentioned, Tora and I were presenting this at DataFam Europe as a hands-on training session actually. So we haven't bothered to change the slides deliberately, because we're also going to give you access to all the material as well if you want to. So you won't be able to play along with us live now, but you can download all the material and all the dashboards and tools that we use. And I'll give you a link for that in a minute. So it's myself, pleased to be here with the wonderful Tor Levinsen, visionary and ambassador. And unfortunately, I left the word leg end in there on me. That's not there on purpose. I'm not really bigging myself up. I just couldn't edit the slides. That was supposed to be a joke. So it was a big thank you to DataFam Europe. If you didn't attend, but you're thinking about it in the future, it's a brilliant show. It's a relatively small event compared to TC over in the US. But what that means in practice is you get to meet people face to face and have real conversations with people. It's a nice intimate audience. And I did a podcast on this fact with Dawn Harrington as well. So if you do get a chance to get there next year, strongly recommend it. Bring your own tomatoes if you're going to attend our event as well. What we're going to run through right now is various different steps which are going to help you be more productive and produce better quality. What a fantastic mix. That's the whole idea of what we're doing today about templating. So I'm going to give you a quick intro about where I see the biggest problems in the dashboard design and build process. And then we're going to run through various different ways that you can speed that up, starting off with wireframing, and then looking at how we can steal other people's work and replace their data with our own data, as well as maybe reusing complex calculations, either our own complex calculations or somebody else's. And then lastly, pulling it together into a beautiful dashboard template that somebody else has built, bringing our work in there. Because I personally, my background is finance, right? I kind of know what I'm doing in that space, but I'm not a designer. And there's so many design techniques and tips and tricks that other people use. I love learning them, but I'm just not that good. So I steal other people's stuff and I reuse it, and it makes my stuff look nearly acceptable. And then very lastly, we're also going to introduce you into custom themes, which is something that's in Tableau if you're not aware of it. Very, very useful, because I'm a big proponent of something called the International Business Communication Standards, which is all about standardizing how we build things for our own sake, because it speeds us up, but also for our end users, our stakeholders. The more standardized we can be for them, the easier it is for them to consume our dashboards, especially when they're consuming dashboards from multiple departments within your organization. So standardizing across your organization is a really good idea. Let's jump in. If you've got a phone and you want to access the material, it's all for free. You can scan that QR code. It's going to take you to a training platform called Thinkific. You can access and enroll for free, and you can download all the material. Wouldn't suggest you do that right now, but do take a snapshot of that screen so you can access the training material. And I'm going to hand you over to, and this is the wonderful AI generated image that we were talking about earlier on. I love the way Tor's just muttering there, as if to say, look, Steve, can you move on from the slide as quickly as possible, because it's embarrassing me. But Tor, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you for this. This is the as good as the intro slide with the agenda, where it said on every topic it says brief, brief explanation. There was no brief explanation on any of these, so it's we're a bit lazy sometimes when we're doing these things. But I think that the content that we're doing is pretty good. And as both Chris and Steve are trying to pronounce my name, I haven't found any people who are not from the Nordics who can pronounce my first name properly, and I don't care anymore. I'm so used to it. So I pronounce it Tore Levinsen. I'm a Tableau Jedi from Norway. I work in Crayon Consulting, and I've been working with Tableau since version 7, when Field Maps was introduced back in 2012. My boss introduced me to something he called Excel on speed, and I haven't looked back ever since. So I've been working as a consultant, advisor, and trainer over all of these years. As Steve mentioned, I've been an ambassador. I run the Norway Tableau user group and the Data plus Maps Tableau user group as well, if you're interested. And I love tiny Tableau tips. So of course, I'm going to share a few of those in my hands-on, or when I'm going to do the practical stuff later on today. But if you go to my torelevinsen.com webpage, you will see, I think there's, well, not hundreds yet, but I've shared 150 tiny Tableau tips over the last couple of years. So that's a bit about me. And then I guess we're going to go over to you, Steve, and you're an animatronic or whatever.
Animatronic. I like the sound of that. Unfortunately, AI didn't do very well with me because it makes me look a lot older than I really am. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. The original. I'm a lot younger than that, believe me. As you can see live. So yeah, I'm Steve Adams. I'm a Tableau trainer. Run a practice out of the UK. I'm also been a Tableau ambassador for a couple of years, which I really enjoy. I enjoy presenting at TC as well as DataFam, and also a co-leader for the UK healthcare tug here from Birmingham, the centre of the universe. Why dashboarding feels harder than it should do. So I'm just going to run through some slides as to why we feel templating is a great idea. Simplistically, when we're building a dashboard, we see that there's a huge amount of pressure pulling us in different directions. We've got the fact well supported. There's lots of information out there, but when you Google, you find you're in conflict. You don't know which solution is going to be the best solution for you. So you're getting information overload, and you're not really getting a steer on the specific project you're looking for. We also find, obviously, that typically there's a lot of deadline pressure. So you don't have the time to do things properly, or you don't have the time to learn how to do things properly. It's either going to be a deadline that's going to say to me, you know what, I'm going to go back to my old habits, my old tool set, whatever that may be. Or you're not going to be able to go forwards and build upon everything you've been working on and training on. And lastly, a big issue when you're delivering a dashboard is you're just worried, is it as good as everybody else's? You know, I've got lots of other people in my organization building dashboards and they look much better than mine. That's one concern I hear a lot. Other ones are, am I actually presenting something which is going to mislead people? Are they going to misread my dashboards? Are they going to misuse my dashboards? So there's that design concern. So we want to overcome that. And one of the ways to overcome that is to make sure you've got a decent, powerful dashboard framework in place, which is going to help you overcome that. So the three key areas there is making sure that in the design phase, you've got a proven process, which allows you to nail the scope down, because the biggest killer of any dashboard project is scope creep. So nailing down that scope right at the beginning is really, really important. And having nailed that down, that's where the templates come in, right? So we can actually select the templates, which are going to speed up that process. Now we know what we need to deliver. Then once we've got the templates in place, we know exactly what the gap is in terms of what we need to build. So we're now just focusing on learning how to build the pieces that we don't know how to do, whether it's getting the data ready, calculated fields, for example, or improving the data relationships that we're using and the data modeling, whether it be just tweaking some of those charts. We've stolen a chart from somebody else, but we need to make it ours and deliver the message that we need it to, or whether it's just adding that layer of interactivity in the dashboard, making sure our users are seeing the right data and navigating, drilling through that data to get to the end insights. And then once we've pulled it all together, We want to make sure, of course, that we're delivering best practice, visual best practice, as well as performance best practice, and making sure that it's delivering insights that count as quickly as possible. And one of the things we can do there is just get peers to review our work, get them to actually give us a critique, make sure that it's actually not misleading them, but also get some great ideas from them. And ultimately, we want to be delivering as quickly as possible a minimum viable product, an MVP, because the real best feedback you're going to possibly get is from the end users. And we want to make sure that this is an iterative process, because A, you never get things right first time anyway. There's no point taking a long time to deliver an imperfect dashboard, which never gets used. You're better off getting something which is rough and ready in front of people, because you can start adding value much more quickly, but also getting their feedback is going to allow you to iterate. And I like to think that a dashboard is pretty much always a work in progress. And so make sure it's being used by people. It's a work in progress because the business changes, the data models change, the people change, the questions change, the insights change. And so we need to be constantly evolving through that process to make sure we're getting as much value as possible from our investments, right? So fundamentally, you want that process in place within your organization to get what I refer to as being the 3 E's. You want to make sure your dashboards are powerful by making them easy to use, making them easy to navigate so people can get through to the insights, and lastly, also easy to build. I mean, there's a concept out there that we all need to be Tableau experts, but the danger of building something which is complex means that A, when you do need to make a change, it takes longer, more things can break. But also you end up maintaining this complex dashboard instead of moving on to the next project. It makes it also harder to hand over to other people to manage and update as well. So having built something that delivers value, it's a really good idea to come back and think, how can I simplify this? How can I make it easier to use and run so you can then hand it over to somebody else and move on to the next thing as well? So easy to build means that you're dumbing things down, but it's still giving the right results. So today we're going to kind of go through one of those loops through demonstration, an iterative loop. We've already gathered the requirements. We've got access to the data. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to start off with a wireframing process. We're then going to switch over to using a starter dashboard and swap in our own data so we can still the concepts of how to analyze a particular requirement. And then we're going to bring in calculations on our own data, maybe stealing from somewhere else, rather than building those same calculations over and over again each time from scratch. Once we then have got something that's working on our data and giving us the results we want, we're then going to bring it into a nice, good-looking dashboard template. And we'll also introduce you to themes just in case you haven't seen that before, so that we can eventually publish our minimum viable product as quickly as possible. So we're going to go through all that in demo mode, which means we're going to make some mistakes. I'll leave the mistakes to Tor, though. I tend not to make many. But just to remind you, it's always going to be an iterative process, right? So we're only going to go through one of those iterations today. The idea is to publish something, get some feedback, and then move on to the next iteration to constantly improve so that you end up with your easy to build, easy to navigate, easy to use dashboards. So once again, just in case you want it, there's a QR code. Take a quick snap and we'll move forwards. Firstly, a bit of background. Why do we wireframe? Why is that an important thing? And what is it? So a wireframe simplistically is just a blueprint of what our dashboard's going to look like. But it's real early stage wireframing is about the function and not the form. And what I mean by that is we're just talking about the functionality, and it's going to give us something that we can talk to with our stakeholders. And it's going to engage them in terms of what they need. We do form a little bit later on. And also, I always recommend that we want to use something which is lo-fi as a starting point. We'll talk a bit about that as well. And what it does is it defines what charts, where those charts should be, what sort of filters and key performance indicators, and where's the narrative going to live in our dashboard. It's going to help us determine the interactivity and the navigational needs that our users need in that dashboard. And it's going to give us something to talk around as well. And you can do both lo-fi and medium-fi. I'm going to show you an example of a lo-fi wireframe in a moment, and then I'm going to talk you through a dashboard, a Tableau dashboard, which we suggest you can use for more of a medium file approach as well. Fundamentally, though, it's a fast, low-risk way to shape the product before building anything in Tableau. And I like to use the concept of failing quick. So what I mean by that is we always misunderstand our users in terms of what they really need. And our users are actually not very good initially at telling us what it is they want either. So a wireframe gives us the ability to fail as quickly as possible and go, oh, I see, that's what you mean, rather than actually building something out in Tableau and finding out that, you know, all those wonderful, beautiful table calculations are no longer going to work because of the interactivity you've told me now that you really need. So I'm not wasting my time in building that out. We're going to revisit that later on. So in our framework, it helps us bridge that gap between agreeing the scope of what we need to then identifying which templates are going to save us the most amount of time. So therefore a key enabler in building out your powerful dashboards. And it turns ideas into something that our stakeholders can actually react to, because quite a lot of our time, our stakeholders aren't necessarily versed in visual analytics, and probably not even in Tableau a lot of the time, and they don't really know how to communicate with us. And it just gives us something tangible to talk around. Helps us then align our needs, our users' needs with what we can build before we spend hours and hours in Tableau itself. Wireframing saves us, it prevents endless redesigns as well, so we don't have to keep constantly going around and redesigning before we can produce something that's usable. It's going to also reduce our stakeholder surprise moments. So, oh, I didn't realize I was going to get something that looks like that. That's not what I was expecting. It helps us engage during that design and build process as well, because we can iterate through that. It's going to identify layout issues before they even become costly. And it creates a shared mental model early on in that design process, which frees up our focus on the insights and not just rearranging containers endlessly on our dashboards, because we know from the get-go what that's going to look like from a layout perspective. Build time is faster, cleaner, and calmer. Wouldn't that be nice? No last-minute arguments, conversations. In practice, it gives your users something to react to in terms of, oh, I like this. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, but that doesn't make sense. Or can we move this over here? Or can I see this earlier? Or I don't want to see all that detail too soon. It helps you test the story flow as well in terms of understanding what's the thought process people really go through in practice, and make sure that we're actually following that navigational and story flow through our dashboards. And it helps us set up that MVP, refine it before we publish it. So here's an example of a hand-drawn lo-fi wireframe that I did with one of my clients. On the left-hand side, we've got a landing page, and on the right-hand side, we've got one of 6 dashboards, which all were laid out exactly the same. For this particular client, they were used to seeing dashboards which had at least 15 different filters on, right? They'd come onto a dashboard and they'd have to click on lots of different filters before they could really actually start using it. When we finished the wireframe process, we identified the fact that we needed literally 0 filters, because everything was through actionable filters instead. So we were visually navigating through the data and getting to the insights much more quickly. It's rubbish. It looks absolutely horrible. And that's kind of part of the process, because we're not getting stuck into what color should the bar charts be and where should the logos be. We're focusing on the function that we can get from the dashboard. We can talk about the design elements later on, but also by showing something in Tableau on our own data as a wireframing process, quite often you get steered into the wrong conversations. So people start actually analyzing the data and start going, well, that data is not correct. And you end up with the wrong conversation. So we actually iterated at the wireframe about 4 times. And eventually we got a feedback from one of the guys on the Steerco committee, simplistically basically just saying this is the best thing we've ever done. And it's so easy to navigate and it's well laid out. And it was because of the inputs from them that we managed to get there. And that process was really, really rather quick and rapid. We ended up with something which looked a bit like that, which is actually quite different from the wireframe, but we managed to deliver that much more quickly than we could have done by navigating or iterating through Tableau. So that's a lo-fi approach. But what we're going to give you now is access to a dashboard which is built by Adrian Zanovi, who's a Tableau visionary and ambassador. And it's a good tool which you can use for wireframing. So I'm going to just flip over now to the training course and just introduce you to that. It's B235 templating. You're going to have access through to this if you enroll via the QR code. And there's a section 2 on wireframing. We can see there's some other tools we've given you access to. So Adrian's given us this dashboard builder, which I'm going to show you in a minute, but he's also given us a corporate designer tool as well. And we've also signposted you to some things on color palettes from Neil Richards, Tableau Hoff Hall of Famer in the Tableau visionary world, as well as Eric Parker, who's given us another concept around whiteboarding on Tableau Public. So all of those are Tableau dashboards that you can have a look at. But we're just going to download this first one, Tableau here. And I'm going to open that up and show you what we've got. I'm going to go into presentation mode on this because I think I can do most of it through the presentation mode. And this is now a tool that we can use to think about, well, once we've actually analyzed our data, and typically, by the way, even though I talk about wireframing, not doing it in Tableau or using the real data, of course, before we go to a wireframing session, we have analyzed the data. We know what we can do, what works, what doesn't work, and which charts are likely to be the best ones. We want to give ourselves confidence that what we talk about with our client is possible and makes sense, of course, right? And then we take a step back and move away from the data for this conversation. So by then, I'm probably in a good position to know which layout is the right approach. Adrian's given us 9 ones to choose from here. Typically, I'm just going to jump in on one of those. And what he's given us is a box over here, which allows me to, for example, change the title. Let's say Steve is better than Tora. Obviously, I can't even spell. Look at that. Very important. Maybe not. And of course, I can change the title so my user is going to actually understand what it is we're putting into different sections. I'm not going to bother with that. Adrian's also shown us which template we're using here, but I can change and navigate to another one if I wanted to. But also I can then start bringing in sort of dummy placeholder chart types. So for example, I can choose that maybe in my top left, I want to have a map to help engage my users and be able to click on something here to navigate and filter to the rest of the dashboard. And maybe I want to have in a heat map here, for example, so you can think about the chart types you want.
Oops. Will he come back or not?
He was so eager now. He was on a roll. And then should never have selected that map, I guess. I don't know. No, it's all gone. He's gone. Okay, this is fun. Yeah, we'll give him a half a minute to see if he joins in. If not, I'll move over to my part anyways.
Yep, that's fine.
I guess you get the gist of it when you saw the Adrian's stuff there anyways. But
yeah.
Yeah, the beauty of live demoing, isn't it? So
exactly.
I think I'll just, I don't see him yet, so I'll just move over to my screen. So we have something to do while we're here, right? And luckily I did have the slides here as well. So let's see, he was over here on the wireframing. And then we're actually on the next chapter, or the next step that I'm going to talk about regardless, which is then you have some data. And then, as Steve said, you are not entirely sure how am I going to present this or how I'm going to put this into a dashboard. And then you move over to Tableau Public, of course. That's the best way to go, because in Tableau Public, you find all kinds of dashboards that you find interesting. Or maybe you find this ABC corporate finance dashboard like this. And I would like to reuse this or something similar to this. So I'm taking this as an example. We see that we have some KPIs. We have some filters over here, or parameters rather. So I just need to reload it. Where we're looking at quarter today, year today, month today, etc. So what I've done then is, of course, to download this. So I have it in here. I see that I have all kinds of charts, which is fine. And I do have a lot of the same data in my workbook or in my day-to-day job. So how can I then leverage this existing one? So if I go into this one, and then I do have my own data, I don't have the same type of financial data, the same type of products or anything, but I do have some candy sales. So this is my data, my real live data. I have some candy factories, products, sales targets, and well, it's some data in here at least. So I've just made a simple table so that I have some data to validate and see that I have my sales and sales targets and gross profit. And then the logic here is to right click and copy. You can then copy a sheet, you can copy a dashboard. If you copy the dashboard, it takes the dashboard and all sheets that are inside the dashboard, but it also takes the data source. So if I now say copy in this workbook, I close this, go back to my finance dashboard, I right click in here and just say paste. What will happen is that my fancy table with my Wonka bar and Kazukals and whatever these products I have in here is now inside of the same workbook. I have candy sales and I have finance data next to each other on the in the view. But that's just the first step. So I could have, of course, just connected to that data source from somewhere else as well, going in here and do it directly. But this is also a trick or a general trick when you maybe collaborate with someone else and they build something in their dashboard and in their workbook and you build in your workbook. Then instead of opening up multiple ones or creating a new one, we can basically copy paste back and forth like this. So now I'm going to replace my finance data. That's the data that I have in, of course, this dashboard that I downloaded with my candy data. So your best friend in Tableau is always right click, because if you don't remember what to do and where to do it, there's always a menu. So that's something that intrigued me in the beginning. It's so simple and clean, everything, because there's not that many buttons or anything. But if you right click, you're in for a treat because there's so much fun stuff to do. There's even stuff that I haven't used yet, and I've been using this for 14 years. But I can go in here and then replace my data source. So I can say that my finance data, that's the one that's being used in all my charts except the one that I copied. And I can replace this with the candy sales. This is something that came in a couple of years ago, I guess, where we can actually replace just the current worksheet. That's something that I often do as well, just to test and validate, see if it's okay. And then I replace the entire workbook later on. But in this case, I'm so crazy that I'm going to replace everything. And it breaks. You've probably heard about the blue pills and the green pills, but when you get the red pills, then you're in trouble, because it doesn't have segment anymore, because segment doesn't exist in candy sales. It does exist in the finance data. We don't have the profit margin. We don't have current period profit. And we see on the left-hand side that the pills that there's no color on these in data pane. Those are not being used, so that's fine. The ones that are blue or green are copied over from the finance to the candy sales, and it's working. And then we have the problem down here with all of the ones that have a red exclamation mark. So they are not working because they don't exist or they are called something else. But this is the first step. We have copied, and I've cheated a bit. So this is more so that I remember it, because I'm compared to Mr. Adams, who says his GIF makes him look old. I'm old enough to don't remember everything. So that's why we have the caption down here. So I see that profit is being used, but it doesn't work in here. So you see profit has a red exclamation mark. It doesn't exist in the database. But I do know that if I right click and replace the reference for that specific field, and when I do this, I always do the measures first, because most likely you have a whole bunch of calculations that are dependent on the measures. And we see that if I zoom in here, you see that all the ones with the equal sign in front of it is calculations. So I'm going to replace my profit with gross profit, because I know that this is the measure that I use in candy sales. When I do that, you see that this one on the top here turned green, and a whole bunch of my calculations that were had this red exclamation mark is fixed. I also know that I don't have segment in my data. I have division. So I'm going to replace this one as well. Now suddenly this one turns blue. I still have some actions in here that are red, so I need to finish up changing the last one. This one is called state in the finance data, but in Candy it's called state name. I could have renamed this, of course, but the safest bet is always to replace these, because when it's being used all across different worksheets, dashboards, maybe even parameters and calculations, when we replace the reference, it will replace it across as well. And then finally, I'm going to replace category to factor. So our factory. So when I do this, suddenly this chart is working, because now it's pointing to the candy sales. All my actions is working. I still have some exclamation marks in here, and I see that a lot of those are connected to discount. So let's have a look at the dashboard. How does that look? Well, almost all my charts are updated automatically, because I've replaced my references, which is pretty good. My KPIs and discount and the profit margin and discount, it's still grayed out because I don't have discount. So, okay, I can live with that because I don't have discount. So I can go over here and just get rid of the KPIs for discount, and I can go and get rid of this one as well. But I'm not going to do that yet, because I'm going to do some other stuff that I would like to change as well. And then to make sure that I don't mess up and when I'm starting building something new in here, and suddenly I start getting some stuff from the finance data, which is just something that came with that dashboard, make sure that you get rid of the finance data. Just close it so that you don't mix those two different charts, different data sources when you're going to start fixing stuff. So I can go into this profit margin and discount, and I see that, well, it's the discount that's the problem. I don't have discount, so of course I can just get rid of it. So that's one option, and then it works in the dashboard as well. But now I've replaced everything that I wanted in this finance overview. But maybe I would like to create some new calculations, some date calculations. I've seen there's so many options of doing date calculations. So maybe I would like to do that. I see that this period filter, this still works across everything as well in this new, when I copy it with my new data. I also see that this parameter works with the sorting. So that's pretty good. But then we go back to, just going to find the correct one, this one, the slides. We now have done all of these, replacing, and all of these slides, by the way, is also downloadable from that QR code that Steve said in the beginning. Here is also some of the steps that I have mentioned in there. We're not doing follow along here, but I also found this one, and this is actually from DataFam. Mr. Prem, he did this KPI cards with map layers, which is really awesome. There's a whole bunch of calculations in there, quite complicated.
Sorry, Tor, I'm just going to jump in here.
Oh,
just to let you know I'm back. I do apologize.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Bit of a backstory on this one, people, because when we were delivering this presentation in DataFam Europe in London, I didn't tell Tor that I'd snuck this slide in the presentation. We actually were on day 2 of the DataFam London, and on day 1, Prasanth did this brilliant presentation. So what you're looking at there is just one worksheet, which is looking at obviously a whole bunch of KPI cards, and he built this with loads of calculated fields using map layers. And it was a really good presentation. It helped us understand how we can utilize map layers to do things which aren't about maps. It's about pixel perfect layout on these KPI cards. So we understood it and saw a lot of calculated fields. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if I threw this into the presentation for Tor to then actually rip that particular worksheet and replace it with another data set, which is what he ended up having to do. And he did quite a good job, actually. I don't think he made many mistakes, Tor. But this is round 2, so you should do it even better this time, right?
Yeah. I put the link to Salesforce Plus with Prasant's actual presentation that is recorded, so you can have a look at it as well. But you will see in here, in his one, there is so many calculations and a lot of stuff going on. But this is a KPI card in one sheet. It's not multiple sheets. It's not a dashboard. It's just one sheet with change over time, bars going up and down, and different type of categories and regions and stuff like that. So I would like to put that into my new finance dashboard, right? So I copy, I go back to my now I open up an older version of Tableau. That's fine. I'm going to go in here and paste it in. And of course, we do the same thing. I'm going to replace the data source. But is it that easy? Well, let's have a look. Well, something is missing here. The categories doesn't exist, but I did have it. I did have another name for it, didn't I? So let me just go into this one and replace the reference. Oh, sorry, replace the reference like this. And I used, and I can't remember, so I'm just going to check again, category factory in there. So I'm just going to replace this with factory. And that was the problem. You see that it still doesn't show anything at the moment. And that's because my data in my candy sale is way older than the than Prasant's data was. So I had to go back to, was it 2015? I did this yesterday, then it worked. So why doesn't it work today? Well, just believe me, maybe it was 2014 then. No, it didn't work. Or is it because I have the profit as well? Let me just double check. So actually it went worse this time, Steve, than last time.
You did it better the first time, man.
Yeah, I
Rewind.
know. Yeah, I think it is something to do with profit.
There is a measure missing, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah, I think so, somewhere. Let me just try gross profit in here and see if it works. If not, just believe me, it should work pretty easily. But no, not today. There's something red somewhere in here that I can't. Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Profit variance, that is the problem, and some more stuff. Yeah, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. And I mean, Steve, you dropped out, so that's even worse than this. I mean, it's a fun thing because I did this yesterday just to validate and check it, and then it actually worked. But you know, it's not our day today, I guess. So we've done this.
The lesson learned is don't practice. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, don't practice, just do it. Another thing is that calculations, as also Steve mentioned, there's so many calculations and so many options and things you can do in Tableau that you probably have also done and tried and tested. And you see that there's so many different type of calculations and functions and stuff like that. But how does it really work, or how should I adjust this? Or you go in here and I'm going to do some date calculations, and there's a whole bunch of these. And how, I mean, it's fine to use this or understand the syntax in here, but what if I would like to find the fourth week of the second year of the number of days of whatever, something like that? You could Google or ChatGPT it or whatever, or we can do something like Mr. Glenn Flaridge in here, who has this cheat sheet. So there's a lot of those on Tableau Public if you search for calculations or calculation cheat sheets. Ken has 46, or at least that's what it says in here in the front page, which is quite interesting, because if you go to, I just need to reload it again because I opened it up earlier. Come on. Well, I do have it locally, so I guess that's safer. 46 reusable date calculations, and you go in here and says this includes 44 reusable date calculations. But you see over here, you can find the first day of current week, the last day of next quarter, number of days of current month, and so on. There's a whole bunch of these that, why should I try to figure out and you can't trust these AI tools anyways, because if you ask for a calculation, 8 out of 10 times it might be okay, but the other 2 times it gives you something that actually don't work in Tableau. So if you pay attention on the left-hand side, you see that we have so many calculations in here. There's even more than 44 or 46. So I'm a bit confused on that one. But I'm going to find one that is called month current number of days. So there's a calculation called month current number of days, and he has done the proper job by doing a comment and explaining what it's like. So I could just copy it like this, but I find it better to just do it like this, copy the name of the entire calculation. I go back to my other workbook, my finance data, which is not finance anymore, but the candy sales. I can go into my candy sales and I just right click, or I have to find a sweet spot where there's nothing that there you go. So I can paste and I get my, I have to find it again now, month. There we go. And it doesn't work. And that's fine because Ken is using the Superstore, and in Superstore we have date. So we just need to put in our date, which is, can't remember what it was in here either now. Order date, there we go. And then this calculation works. And I can use this in here, and I can put in the months, and I can do whatever visualization or analysis I want to. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's the idea in here. So there's so many of these workbooks that you can find on Tableau Public. And even though Steve calls this stealing, I call it borrowing from a friend, because there's so many good ones. And this is also what I put into this slide. There's some other examples in here where you have some Tableau cheat sheets from Shiva and from Ken and from other people as well. So just download these and add on to those with your own stuff, because you will be doing a lot of calculations on your day-to-day job that you would like to, or that you can reuse. So if you put these into one, like your master calculation workbook, then it's easier to go back and forth, just copy paste and replace the references as well. So now we've done some calculations, and then I guess we all can agree that this dashboard over here is maybe not the most sexy one. There's better ones. You've seen better, nice looking dashboards out there. So how can I then reuse other templates but still keep all my visualizations? So the last thing before I do that is, maybe I didn't want to use this sheet. I could delete it and then add a new one. But if you would like to, or this is a trick for keeping all the formatting that you probably have in a dashboard, meaning all the padding and borders and all that stuff. So when I've selected this particular one, and I'm going to replace it with the fancy new one that I just made. I mean, the content is not great, but the idea here is this swap sheets. So when you click on the swap sheet, it automatically replaces it inside of this same place. If it's inside a container, if it has borders, if it has these padding, it will retain that as well. So that's a second tip in there. So we go back to Tableau Public, and maybe we find, oh, this was a really nice template, cleaner, with some updated information. There's a dashboard guide, there's some filter, there's some show hide buttons, and this is way nicer. So I could download this, but it also contains a lot of data and these charts. And luckily, some people have taken a lot of great visualizations or dashboard like this by Noor and create these type of templates. So Dawn Harrington, Steve's sidekick, or one of his many sidekicks, I guess, has made this template where you see that instead of having the actual sheets, charts and everything in here, it's just KPI sheet swap this, swap this, swap this, etc. So you could make these with text boxes and then replace them. The problem with text boxes is you lose all the padding and formatting. If you create these sheets instead, then this works better. So again, I've downloaded this one, this template over there. It has multiple templates. So depending on which one you like Norse. This is similar to the one I showed you. You have Prias, you have another one from Nor, and that's the table view or page 2, and then we have Fates in here. The idea is that, and that's something I do also for a lot of my clients, is that we build these templates, and they don't necessarily need to use KPI Sparkline. You can select any container and just get rid of it like this, because I only need 3, and maybe I only need 2 sheets, etc. You can get rid of as many as you want, right? So you build this page 1, you can duplicate it and then have page 2, and you can replace and reuse. So let's say I'm going to be using this one. Then I go back to my original one. I copy my entire dashboard. I go over here, I paste, and I wait. So I get everything in here. I have the dashboard, all the data, or not all the data, unfortunately, because there's an issue with one parameter that is actually failing in here. Let me see where that was. I can't. Let me rather do it the other way around to make sure that it doesn't mess up my parameters, because there's a parameter that actually that actually messes this one up, which we discovered last time as well. So it's not always 100% safe, right? There's always something, or not always, but very often something that is happening. So now when I have this template inside of my original dashboard, I go to swap this sheet, select this one. I'm going to have my product Pareto in here. I do swap sheet. I go through, I have the trend in here. I have the KPI in here, and I'm not going to do all of these. You get the gist of it. But the idea is that you save a lot of time, and you also get very often very nice looking templates that you can reuse. And of course, before I do necessarily this swapping, I might open this up and replace the logos, replace the colors, put it into my company's theme. And that, my friend, is a hint to you, Steve, that there's a lot of these examples in this presentation as well that you can download. But now I'm going to switch over to, where do we go? There's so many slides in here. There we go. Custom themes.
I have no idea why I dropped off. Something to do with Virgin Media. I do apologize about that earlier on. I'm going to quickly run through some theme concepts now. So this tends to be something you're going to do once or twice, perhaps. There are different reasons why you might want to use different themes. It's not something you need to do every single dashboard, simplistically. But why use themes? It comes back to that standardization approach where you can get a consistent look across various different teams who are all creating dashboards. They're fast, repeatable formatting options, so we don't have to keep going through and changing fonts and line spacing and colors, etc., etc. And it allows you as a team to support multiple brands. So it may be that you are providing dashboards for your clients, in which case that's great. You can have multiple themes for different clients, but also larger organizations may have different brands and you want to produce dashboards internally for different brands as well. And also likewise, you might want different themes for internal reporting versus external reporting as well. So it's a good idea to have different themes which work for those different setups. It prevents that concept of having 5 different people providing 5 different styles and your end user getting confused. Why are you using different layouts, colors, fonts, logos, etc., etc. So it's ideal when many people are building, but only one standard must remain. How we create them? Using a no-code version now. So there's always been theming in Tableau, but it's been quite code orientated, and I personally am not a coder. AI might be able to solve some of those problems, but why do we need to? We don't need to anymore. We can actually just start with a dashboard which already looks good, and we can steal, like an artist, the theme from that. And I'm going to show you how we can do that in a moment. But also what it's going to do, sorry, is going to extract the colors and fonts and spacing, etc., etc. We can build the theme from an existing design, but we've also got the ability to use a theme builder, which I'm going to show you very quickly as well. All of this is accessible through that QR code, by the way. Okay, let me just jump into what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a dashboard that I like the look of, and I'm going to apply that theme to a rubbish dashboard. So let me just come out of here. Let me find my rubbish dashboard. Here we go. It's a very simple worksheet. And if I wanted to change the theme in here, I can go to Format, and I can go to the various different workbook themes. So there are 4 that ship with Tableau by default. We've got a previous version. You can see various different things changing. I've got a modern version. Let's keep it at that for now. But what I'm going to do is go back over to Tableau Public, and just for the fun of it, I'm going to search for theme, see what we've got. We've got nothing to do with themes at all, but we've actually got bar hopping by the wonderful Jeffrey Schaffer. It's a brilliant dashboard to have a look at anyway. So why don't I just click in here and steal this theme from Jeffrey. I love Tableau Public. One of the things that I love about it these days is we've got this ability to make a copy. So as soon as I see that that's not grayed out, I know for a fact I can download this, right? So I can go to my download and I can download the workbook. Let me just do that right now. It's ready. So let's pop it open, bar hopping. And from my format menu, I can now export the theme from a worksheet. So I'm on the dashboard at the moment. I need to navigate to a worksheet, go to format, and I can export the theme from Jeffrey's dashboard. Let me do that. What that's doing, if you're interested, is it's just creating a JSON file, and I'm going to put that into my downloads. We've always been able to manipulate that JSON file, but obviously we needed to know what you're doing in that regards, and I certainly don't when it comes to JSON files. So now I'm going back to my rubbish dashboard, and I'm going to import that theme. So I go to Format, and I go to Import the Custom Theme, and I point at the theme that I've just downloaded from Jeffrey, click on Open, and I've got the choice here of preserving what I've currently built or overriding everything that I've currently got. So I'm just going to take the override option. And now you can see I've actually applied Jeffrey's theme to my workbook. I've only got one worksheet in here, but could have applied it to everything. And if I go back into Format, we see that I can now choose that bar hopping theme as well. So we can switch between the various different themes that you've got within your workbook. That's been out of the box for quite some time and quite useful. And maybe there's another option to do, which might be interesting for you, which is if I go to the training course you've got access to and go onto the custom themes, you can see in there we've also got a link to the brilliant custom theme generator from Adaptive Viz, which is a free tool to use. Click in there, and what this allows us to do is either start with a blank canvas, and we can go through and we can start changing the various different elements, the worksheet colors, background mark colors, worksheets, titles, fonts, etc., etc. It may be that I want to actually import one as a starting point and then do some tinkering and tailoring and make all the changes. You get to see on the right hand side all the impact of the changes you're making. And once you've got something that you want, you then just export that theme. And as I've just showed you, you can then import that theme into your workbooks as well. So that gives you a nice way to produce a theme and see exactly what that's going to look like, so that you can help standardize that across the board. And lastly, we talked about templating of dashboards and stealing like an artist some of the ones from Dawn or anybody else on Tableau Public that have created templates. But you've also got access in here to a tool. It's a very cheap tool, but it's by the brilliant Marcello Haas. It's called Tab Design, and that's going to allow you to actually create your own dashboard templates as well thematically. So it could be that you build in logos and branding on there, and create those dashboard templates, and that allows you to then just click a button and it creates the Tableau workbook for you, which then opens up in Tableau, and then you can, just like Tor is doing right now, you can then drag in and replace your own worksheets into that Tableau as well. So it's 10:02. We've come to the very end. I think I'm just going to wrap up and remind you what we've done, because that's always a good thing to do. We've gone through the process then of turning a blank canvas into a wireframe. So we've scoped out what it is we think we need to deliver for this particular iteration. We've swapped in a new data source using a plethora of different charts that somebody else has suggested we might want to use for that particular use case. We've reused calculations from a library, and we recommend building up your own library, of course, but there are many good starting points, including the ones that Tor has shown you already. And then we get through to developing and publishing a minimum viable product as quickly as possible, so you can start putting that into the hands of your users and getting some great feedback using templates and also themes as well. And then just remembering that you just walk through one of those iterations effectively that you'll need to do on an ongoing basis. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for sticking around. And I can see one question in the Q&A, so I'm just going to flip over to there. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open up any other questions. Andy, you've got a question, which is on custom themes. Can you talk about what is currently included or excluded in the theme file? I don't need to talk about it, Andy. I can show you because basically LabData Viz is showing us exactly all of the items that we can customize on here. So if you want to do a quick search, you can go to LabData Viz, and it's their custom theme generator. And all of these elements down here on the left-hand side are all the things that we can change. So we've got the ability to change our font color generically across the whole workbook, including the font family as well as changing the background color. On the worksheet, we can change the mark colors, the default mark color, which is that lovely blue that we see on the screen over here. We can change that to whatever we want. So in LabData Viz, I just click in there and select whatever color I want to. That is so much nicer. Font colors, worksheet titles, headers, grid lines, whether or not they're visible is something we can change. So they're by default, as you know, they're always visible. We can turn that off, as well as the zero lines, the tooltips, dashboard titles, story titles, legends, legend titles, filters, titles, parameters, parameter controls, etc., highlighters, and the page controls as well. So all of those are things that we can change in effect in that JSON file. Cool. Any other questions?
There was a second part to that question as well, I think, Steve.
Is there? Also, when would you use the versus the currently more comprehensive CMP formatting? CMP formatting being?
So copy and paste formatting in Sheets, which takes over a lot more than currently custom themes do.
Yeah, so simplistically, I would use the custom theme generator when you're trying to standardize across multiple teams and multiple designers and developers. So you've got that starting point. As you know, though, when you're using the copy and paste from a formatting, one of the challenges is that you've formatted individual elements on a chart, haven't you? So that specific dimension and that specific measure, and when you're copy and pasting between two very different charts, that formatting doesn't come across either. Yeah. So using Superstore as an example, if you've got subcategories on one worksheet and you formatted the head of a subcategory and you paste that onto another worksheet which isn't using subcategory but it's using product name, you're not actually replacing that formatting either, are you? Tor, do you want to jump on a question?
Was there on that one or in general? I saw that somebody asked about Marcelo's, so I put his link in there, at least his product. There's no other particular questions that needs answering, I think.
You all got a question. How would you best address in templates drafts and data sensitivity from a UI perspective?
Sorry, just to elaborate a little bit on that, because it can be a huge thing. Let's say we have Tableau for now 1 year, but yeah, we didn't have really time, so we're now planning a complete rollout. and so that we get everything in a branded format. And also, let's say, because we had the problem now in the development that people are using the draft reports, and also so that they see maybe with a overlay image or whatever, I don't know what the best practice is, that this is a draft report. And from the data sensitivity, I mean, we have the data management add-on with, I can put it like confidential, the data, but it's not really visible in the report, and people are overlooking that, yeah. So how to mark or use in a template that this is a higher data level which they shouldn't share with someone else.
In the template itself, I'm not sure how that needs to be there. So specifically, if you're thinking, yeah, go on.
No. For example, we have 3 categories. Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking is maybe to have in the template a placeholder, or let's say like a template header, which is everywhere the same, where you have this information stored, or I don't know what is the best practice.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is you want to enforce within the templating process that there's automatically an overrider basically saying this is confidential, not for external use, for something along those lines.
I mean, I think not logical, but just from the UI perspective, that they see really visible, this is confidential.
Yeah. There's lots of different approaches to that. I'll give you some of my thoughts, and maybe Tor wants to throw something on top as well, or anybody else on the call as well. It depends on just how much of an issue that is, right? So, for example, I've seen some use cases where when you open up a dashboard, there's an overlay that automatically appears, which covers everything. And it basically just says, this is confidential data. Please be aware of that. And then you close that show hide button, and then you get to see the dashboard below it. And that never appears again. But every time somebody opens up the dashboard, it reappears at the beginning, for example. So that can be quite useful because it's forcing people to interact with it in order to get rid of it to see and use the dashboard. Other examples would be to make sure that there are signage within the template itself, either at the top, preferably top left, because that's typically where we're going to be looking, which has got, something which is bold and bright and just basically saying this is confidential data, please be aware of how you're using it. And you could design that into your templates absolutely as well, both of those options.
Perfect.
Yes, simplistically, we just remember that when we do I study on people using dashboards in the Western world, we always look top left to start with. So if you've got something really important that people need to see, put it in the top left.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, and you can search for. I know that Heidi Kalbe, she has done some of those overlays. You have to click it before you go into the view. So she's done that on several of those tremendous Tableau tip sessions. So if you find some of those, then you can download the workbook and steal like an artist.
What was the name?
Heidi Kalbe. I'll put it into.
I'll put some drinks in
perfect.
the chat. If you're putting your name, I'll put the website.
Just as a feedback, this was very helpful.
Cool.
Very, very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's what we're here for, right?
I think
that's what we aim for. You're going to walk away with a smile, and hopefully you learn something.
But are you going to walk away with a smile like that? That's the question.
Stop the recording. Yeah, thank you for having us, Chris. And as Steve said, you can put in the QR code again if you want to. So if you would like to download all the slides and connect with the materials and everything, please do that. And let us know if you need some help as well.
Yeah, and if you do sign up, actually, I'm offering a training program in February, which is going to allow you to get access to my training for free if that's of interest as well. So if you sign up to that, I'll send you some details on that as well. No obligations. Cool. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciated that.
Just in case you didn't have any contact details enough for these guys, how do I say it? Turuva's contact details. I'll get it right one day. It's okay. I'm like Steve. You read it and it says Tor. That's right. That's exactly what it says. It's Tor.
Yeah, almost.
And I've had other people say, you don't say it like that. You say it like something else. Okay, that's cool. Everyone's got an accent. That's fine. And obviously Steve's contact details as well. But before we go, now time for everyone to do a little bit of a survey. Has everyone got their phones ready and scan the QR code and jump in to Mentimeter?
Waiting for the presenter.
Waiting for the presenter. I'm waiting for the people. I'm looking at the count in the bottom right corner that's on 6 at the moment. And now it's on 8. And I'm not expecting everyone to jump in. I'll give people time. And yes, I think everyone just like sitting here and just pressing thumbs up a million times over.
80% is pretty good, isn't it?
Maybe I was just going to say maybe some people don't have their phones or they don't want to actually participate. Either of those is fine. Easy. Okay, so let's move on. So just a few simple questions. It's easy. It's a bit of lighthearted fun. First question is, where do you live? Just so we can get an idea of where we are all in the world without actually putting in your real address. And we've got all over, right? Which is good. Easy. Nice big stretch. South Africa. Hello. Haven't seen anyone from South Africa on the meetings before, so that's pretty cool. But we're at a better time of the day for stuff like that as well. Next question. What industry do you work in? More just to prove that Tableau can be used in any industry. But it's always interesting to see who's on the call and what sort of cross-reference we get. Obviously, a lot of consulting today. And the next question is, how many years have you been using Tableau? So this always skews one way or the other, and I can never tell. And see, so now everyone's leaning over on the 9 years plus, but there's a few people with less experience as well. My joke is always, no one was born knowing Tableau. We've all started at some point and learnt from absolute zero. So it's just, when did you start learning? Because people start at all different times. Easy. Next question, which is the hard questions and the different questions for this meeting.
It's easy.
It's easy. So are you team tiled or team float, or it depends? And no one's gone for it depends. That is incredible. I put that there. I thought everyone was going to drop on it depends. Okay, team tiled winning by a mile. Interesting. What's the most satisfying part of using Tableau for you? Right click, speed to build. Same thing, right? There's no wrong answer. It's just what you think is the best answer for you. Creativity is good, providing insight, etc. And as we always get stuck here, yes, 8 people have answered, and then people keep on typing in really good answers. So I never know when to actually continue on or whether to stop. But we've stopped, so let's continue on. Next question, what's your personal Tableau motto? So use parameters, you can't break anything, everyone can do it, that's cool. You can always go back. The undo button just goes back forever. Tiny Tableau tips, etc. Again, all good answers. I was trying to figure out that one, but it's just because you can doesn't mean you should. Someone had to break it in half. Yes, it's only a short text field. You can't enter everything. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I was planning on writing, don't use color just because you can, but it didn't fit. So.
Okay, next question. What is your most used feature in Tableau? And now my phone's bombed out again. Ask Steve. Yeah, replace data source is always good. I like the demo today because I've seen someone before saying, before you replace a data source, you've got to do all this work to make sure everything's the same name. Like, no, you can do the approach that we saw here is make everything go red, replace references until it works, and then it works, right? Don't need to change anything really.
The one thing that I didn't do today that I always do is that I refresh all the thumbnails or open up all the sheets before I replace, because then it tend to keep most of the formatting. Sometimes it skips, but very often it does. So that's a tip as well.
Yeah, you've got to load all those sheets before you do anything, if you're doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, my other tip that I didn't mention earlier on is when you're doing that is always do it in order as well. Replace the non-calculated fields first, very much so.
Yep.
And replace measures before dimensions, because the reason for that is when you've got a sort order on a dimension which is on a measure that you haven't yet replaced, you lose that sort order, for example. So you don't have to go back and replace those. And
it also, fixing the measures also fix all the calculated fields.
Typically, absolutely, yeah.
And there was something else in there that I always do that I forget as well.
Ask Steve.
Ask Steve, always.
Awesome. We'll move on to question number 5. People are still typing in stuff. That's cool. Question number 5. What is one feature you wish Tableau had? I'm waiting for a specific answer. I know it's going to come up. I feel like typing it myself, but I'm not going to. Better dashboard formatting. That's interesting. Format painter would be cool. Data source over API. Yeah, there you go. Round the corners. That's what I was waiting for. Coming later this year, right?
I just added it for you, Chris.
Well, someone's got to type it in. Data source over API. I don't know who typed in, but yes, talk to me sometime about web data connectors. Web data connectors.
It's just we have a problem that we want to generate data sources, and it's not officially possible over API to create a data source directly.
Not officially possible in Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud?
Cloud.
Cloud. So you can use a web data connector, but on cloud I would not worry. If you need to, and I do this for a lot of clients now, if you need to get to data over an API, go and use whatever flavor of modern data stack you prefer, and you'll get it really easily. And I do that for a bunch of clients now, because web data connectors used to work on Tableau Cloud and they don't anymore, and there's just no timeline to actually have them working properly.
I mean, what are they doing, these web data connectors? They are, then you connect from the Tableau Cloud directly to the data source, or how? Okay. Because,
No, I know what you're talking about. That's been a request for years, and
okay.
At the moment it's not possible.
Yeah, no, we tested with hyperfiles, but
it's always as I said, I can talk about it later. There's a variety of options to choose, but at the moment, Tableau Cloud connecting to an API for a live or semi-live data source is just not an option. It just doesn't work.
No, this is not what I mean. I mean that we're having the data source in the database, and we want to create a base data source inside of the Tableau Cloud to present it for the analyst.
Yeah.
This is what you mean, or yeah?
No, sorry. I thought you meant the way to get access to your data is via an API. So
No.
Database, you've got it.
No. Is it because let's say we have a almost automated life cycle, and this is the gap what we have in our automated life cycle. We create automatically the data marts. We have automatic schema evolution, and we want to create for the people who want to make the reports, to present them with a data source, also from a license perspective, because they cannot do it because they have maybe an Explorer license or something, and to prepare them the data source that they can just make the workbook and choose this data source what has been created over API. You can publish a data source, but you cannot create it from scratch over the API.
I thought you could now, but there might be a little bit in there that I'm missing.
I mean, the only thing what I found is possible, if you create hyperfiles, then you can publish the hyperfiles, but they have a lot of limitations. And the only unofficial way is to get your XML together and create a TDS file or upload it then.
Yep. No, okay, interesting. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Which topics should be presented at a future TUG meeting, as in this TUG? There's no answers. Okay, cool. That must be the toughest question yet, because there's only 3 people replying. Okay, a few good topics. And obviously the tricky question for tonight, who would you like to see present at a future TUG meeting? And Andy Cockgrave is not a proper answer because he's already booked in for a few weeks' time for his AMA Part 2. So I am talking to 2 people who've written books about Tableau, and one of those people said, I will come on if I don't talk about the book. So we'll see what happens. Tristan's been on before. I'm quite happy to have people on. I'm actually talking to someone else about another presentation. They were very nervous because they've been on before. It's just like, just keep adding things in. Newer faces in the DataFam. Again, that's what this TUG's for, as well as just what I do sometimes on this list is contact the people. What you can do as well is contact the people, get them to contact me, and we'll arrange time. Shazira was on last year. Awesome to have her present. She always puts a different view on things as well. But yep, all good stuff, all good suggestions as well. Obviously, in the lead up to TC26, we might have some preview presentations. After TC26, I try and get as many repeats on here as well. Exactly what we're doing today. If you're not at the conference, you're going to miss out. So let's see if we can get them on this TUG, or again on any TUG. It doesn't have to be here as well. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if you've just seen a preview to TC26 presentation. Oh,
sorry, that's good. Thank you. I thought it was a repeat from DataFam Europe, but it's the same thing.
Oh, not a repeat, man. We always improve.
That's cool. Well, even when Will and Kyle did their repeat from TC, and they said, but we've changed it. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Every presentation just evolves as it goes through.
Today we introduced more bugs.
Yeah. and the same thing, you can't break it. So even though things broke and things didn't work and you know, what did you destroy in the workbook? You might have to use undo, or you might have to do it again. Yeah, as Andy said, they're not bugs, they're just features, and it's just you're not going to actually break anything. It's just, it looks bad on your screen for a while. The next TUG meeting is early next week, depending on where you are in the world. Obviously, if you're in Europe, it's a bit of a late night. If you're in the US, it's in the afternoon. If you're in Australia, my time type thing, fairly early in the morning, a little bit earlier for Andy. But Sekou presenting on 10-minute Tableau rapid insights from the DataFam. Again, another TC25 presentation. So I didn't see this at TC25. I'm seeing it for the first time next week as well. Again, use the user group website or the QR code to register for that one. Obviously, it's the same format as today as well, but he takes the floor and does that presentation as well. This meeting and everything else that we do, and a whole heap of other online TUGs. So as Torre said, the Norwegian TUG, the Data and Maps TUG, the AI TUG, there's a whole heap of stuff on YouTube. I think there's been 7 TUG meetings this year. I think today we'll make 8 or 9 in that list as well. So on the YouTube channel, or if you don't have time to watch it on YouTube, look for it on Spotify and Apple as an audio podcast, so you can listen to it while you're out, and then watch YouTube when you can actually get back in front of the screen. As I said at the start, if anyone needs any questions, any help, if you want to present, talk to me about anything else, my email is team.datafam@gmail.com. But thank you guys for the presentation. It was awesome to see. It was good to get the recording, and I'll share out the details later on.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good to meet you all.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.
See ya.